What's up, WWE Champions Universe? Welcome to Champions Chat, the fastest growing podcast dedicated to the WWE Champions mobile game. I'm Raquel Rodriguez, Rusty Graves, and with me, as always, my tag team partner, Liv Morgan, Lee Brown. What's up, Lee? Liv.
Live, leave. Just having some fun here on a Friday. It's the first Friday I've had off in a while. And isn't it funny that we used to have struggles streaming on Friday nights, but now we can go live with the podcast. And by the way, to everybody who's been commenting, yes, we are glad we're back too. So thank you for showing your support and love. It means a lot.
On our channel, where we make the rules,
That's right.
we could call the superstars cards if we want to on our
Whoa,
on our channel. I don't really do that, but we
careful.
could. We could
If
if we
one
wanted
wanted to, one could.
Lee, so we're gonna do some show notes real quick. Of course, there's gonna be witty banter. There's gonna be some self-deprecating humor. There's gonna be some life updates. That's
Oh,
always
yeah.
kind of what goes on in our intro. And then we're gonna talk about. I think it's our bread and butter, man. I think it's what got us to this point with our audience, and that is practical input on roster strategy. We want to help you by today kind of ranking or emphasizing the most important entourage. Um, we're specifically talking entourage, okay? But we're going to talk about who you need to focus on talent up, who you need to be sending to the moon, or at least to their max talent ability. And Lee, I've got some notes, but we're gonna have to rely on some in-game references, and as well as I might have to look up things from time to time because, to my knowledge, a entourage ranking or entourage tier list does not exist. Would you agree with that, or has someone attempted to do what we're about to do?
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to look in like the Realmira and the what's the gosh dang Reddit, those type things to see if something like that's out there. But overall, no, I mean, like the reason we started talking about this is because, somebody was commenting on one of our previous videos like, "Hey, can you help us new players?" And to be honest, this is I think helpful for any player out because I just don't know what to do with coaches. And even if you are a longtime player, you're a whale, you're an expert, you're whatever you want to call yourself, the reality is there's over 670 posters in this game. Each one of them has an entourage ability, so it's super easy to get lost and go, oh my goodness. And as we've seen, talent ups are a lot harder lately, and they're a lot more frequent, although they are getting rid of, or they did get rid of the master manager, so that's nice. But you need to be able to go, okay, if I get someone and I'm looking for their entourage ability, how do I prioritize them and how do they impact the rest of my roster? Because like even a conversation in our Discord today was somebody saying, should I, I have enough, I could get Mello. Should I take Mello? And everyone was like, oh my gosh, that will change your entire freaking roster. Like, yes, 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 yes. And this is a player that's been, in the game for a number of years. So I think this is a relevant topic for everybody.
Yeah, I think in the same way that getting a great plate makes your whole roster better, having a multitude of entourage options is what actually makes your whole roster better.
That's
Like
right.
I would say entourage is more important than plates.
Yep.
Now, thankfully, we don't have to pit them against one another. Thankfully, we
You
can
get both.
we can acquire plays and build up our entourage, and they're not competing for your attention.
Right.
But it's very, very unquote unsexy to bring up someone that's not going to be one of your feuders, but rather than it's just going to sit in your feuders entourage, right? Very
Right.
few people are posting on their brag room about bringing up the newly revamped Big Boss Man for his multi-gym reduction trainer ability of minus 80% to multi-gym damage,
Right?
right? That's a weird brag, isn't it?
It is
But
a
I
weird
did it.
brag. You did it.
I did it. And I did it. And that's where I'm like,
Uh,
the multi gyms are really kind of owning the meta. And now I have someone that I will never use in a showdown or a feud, but that's going to make my ability to withstand multi gym damage anyway. So,
right.
yeah.
Well,
So, yeah.
our friend Slim Numbers just pointed something out in the chat too here. He said, "Hey, I just got my new NOD Rock and thought that was very sexy." And like, there's an argument going on in our server, or there was a couple days ago, about whether NOD Rock was good as a fighter. Flex is like, "Hey, I can show you how to get him over 100 million. Just take some turns,
Right.
blah blah blah." But he wasn't considered. He was like top tier. Then he was considered like really quickly in 6-star gold meta. The reality is the Entourage ability has a chance to last longer than your character does as a fighter by like a multitude. Like, think about the
Yeah.
fact that, well, we'll get into it, but some
Yeah.
of the most important trainers in the game are Woods, Kofi. Like, you're never going to use them as fighters, but they are literally some of the most important people in the entire game to have. And then go back to Braun Breaker, Roxanne, and Mello. They kind of phase in and out of whether they're usable based on new things, but their trainer ability is literally, well, again, we're going to get there. So I'm gonna get.
Okay. So, first on the list, let's just start. Let's rapid
Let's
fire.
start.
First on the list, and this is the most basic one of all, is your +4 MP trainers.
Yep.
+4 MP trainers. Why are they so importantly +4 MP trainers?
I mean, quite simply, and quite all we need to say is, you cannot start loaded with your big, powerful moves without them. And so for feud, where you don't have any entourage boosts in terms of MP, where in a tour you'll have, your tour perks each month or whatever, but like feud and lots of other modes, you can't get started without them. So I would say there's kind of a subdivision of these. There's 3 different tiers, maybe 4, even within this one tier. The absolute top of the barrel is Roxanne, Braun Breaker, and Mello, because they're double for MP. Like Braun Breaker is blue and yellow, and Mello is black and purple, and Roxanne is blue and green, or red and green. Sorry, but either way, like those are the very top most important ones to get. And then, like we said, Woods, Kofi, so on and so forth. But then there's another tier that's kind of right in there, and maybe this is a separate thing, maybe not. I'll let you decide. But what do you always say, Rusty? If a character has a trainer ability, they need to give at least
2 MP. They better give me 2 MP at least if they're a trainer, or I'm very disinterested in them. Their value to me is not as good as it could be. A
Yep.
great example of this, Lee, 2 MP. Imagine if Kofi Angelo gave you 2 MP and 150% to power gym damage.
Yep.
That would be, he would be, one of the most broken and important trainers in the game. But
Yep.
they chose not to give him 2 MP because they gave him a really, really. Anyway, back to you.
Back to me. No, you're right. Like, so I just don't know if the 2MP guys are their own thing, because now there's so many of them. The most rare of the rare is Mr. Perfect NWO. I have been playing this game for 8 years. I don't even have a whiff of Perfect NWO, because the only way you can get him is to have the passes, specifically the manager's pass, and do the gold pulls on that. And even in that, he is like 0.0000001%. So if you've got Perfect NWO, I think that is probably the most rare character, period. But he has 2 MP to all colors. But there's a bunch of different ones that do 2 MP into multi, which I'm going to get into in a second, the multi-gym trainers and coaches. But trainer-wise, I think there's nobody more important than the four, then the six that do just the one 4MP color, and the three that do double 4MP. The second tier for me, and you know, I want to get your take on this. I think anybody who buffs multi gems. So trainer, of course, Sherry, and then you go into in your coaches Seth Leonardo, Uncle Howdy, and the zombies from last year. But that's a lot of different things. So can you help me parse where those fit, or if you think
Yeah.
there's somebody I
So
forgot before that?
no, and I agree with you, but I want to pump the brakes just a hair because if you're brand new to WWE Champions, um, you're going to need to focus on um, your 18K flat gym damage
Okay,
trainers.
that's
And so
right.
let's say if you're new, if you're entry level, you've been playing a year or less, you're in a league, I don't know, league seven, somewhere between 7 to 20 or lower, and you're trying to build up your roster. Those you're not going to you're probably not going to have any 6-star gold superstars because of the nature of the game, unless you're getting something out of the end of the month prize wall or coin that gives you a lucky pull. But let's assume you don't have that. Just doing flat gem damage, especially in the lower, you got a guy 5-star, 6-star bronze.
Right.
Those flat gem damage, and that's that's to all six colors. And so you gotta have, especially to beat your tours in career mode. You've got to have damage that's larger than the opponent. That's how you win this game. Is your damage output has to be larger than the opponent. And early in the game, the only way to get really high damage is those flat trainers.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
probably you have anything to add to that? It's about all
Well,
that
for
maybe needs
those
to
who
be
are
added.
thinking, like, wait a second, like, we're talking flat. Like, didn't we just have conversations about thank goodness we got rid of flat across the board with tier
Right.
six medals and stuff? What Rusty's saying is, you know, we've talked about this many times before, but at six silver and below, 18K is greater than your 30-40% trainers and what they can do for your damage. So early on, if you're, you know, still building a roster up to six, you know, 6-star silver, those flat 18K people are going to be, you know, just amazing for you. Those are going to be the way to go. Once you get beyond that, once you get beyond 6 silver, you start then moving into percentages. And there are a few, like for example, Jacob Fatu, who does 75% to a color. You know, that starts to muddy the waters a little bit because then that percentage is better than the other. But typically, the trainers that do high percentage are also super rare. So focusing on those flat, like Lex Luger technician that's free, that's going to get you farther early on in the game. And then as you get into the 6 gold meta, as you get into higher levels and higher ranks, then you absolutely switch to percentage based.
Yeah, and as that transition is happening, you're going to notice that your damage will plateau until you're able to do two things in the game. One is boosted gem percent, which would be like 200 extra percent to green gems, right? So your damage kind of plateaus until you can really boost it, and those are newer and rarer superstars. But then the second thing is you can get your damage to ramp up significantly with exactly where Lee was going. That's our multi-up entourage. Multiply gems, um, getting their percentage, or I don't even know what to call it, times, like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Like the higher you can get that, you're doing exponential damage. And so they really are, I don't know a way to overemphasize it. If they give you 2 MP and multi up, they are very, very, very important,
Yep.
right? And those are some older characters that you might get your hands on sooner than later. Wildcat Liv was one, for example. She was free,
Yeah.
and
Nation of Domination Rock is probably the most rare, although one of them is Powerhouse Braun Strowman. So if you don't have him at this point, if you're new to the game, since he's out of the company, there's no telling if that's going to be available. He's going to be available again soon. But I would say out of all of them, definitely Nation Domination Rock is the more rare one, because the others like Judgment Day Damian Priest and Wildcat Liv that do some of those bigger setups. So yeah. I mean, there's no way to say it other than multiply gems are distinctly and probably always going to be the best gem type, battle type in the entire game, because they scale so far and away above leech gems and trap gems and etc. Those posters that do any kind of buff to multi gem, whether it's percentage based, whether it's multiplies increase their number by X, or the rarest but best of all of them is Uncle Howdy, who creates more multi gems as a coach, and then Mosh Potato, who creates more as a trainer. Like those two are kind of in their own little world there too. But any of those, like 70% of the characters on your roster seems like have some way to do a multiply gem build, and those guys make them better. So
Yeah, I use the term it's an evergreen ability, which is a term that mean they won't expire, right? Because as the meta scales up, as the base damage of a gem, let's say it's 30,000 damage to a blue gem, right? And then in the next meta, let's say it's 300,000
right.
damage per blue gem. Well, that multiplier is gonna overlay regardless of what the base gem damage is, and it's gonna amplify it exponentially above the meta, right? So
Yeah.
that's why this might be nerd talk, or this might be like I wasn't planning on hearing about math on my favorite podcast today, right? But and there's guys like Slim Numbers that have done really long form videos explaining the complexity of multi gems, and really it's like exponential math, and he goes in there into all the minutia. So you said there was the 2 MP plus 2X multi-gym trainers were very, very important.
Yeah.
There's another group of coaches that are arguably the most important coaches in the game.
Yep.
Tell us about those, Lee.
Well, you're probably referring to the 2024 zombies.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
single one of the 2024 zombies is plus Gunther, I should say, plus Gunther, because they brought him into that category, kind of like how they brought Wildcat Liv into the 2-up multis plus color. So those guys do 40% gem damage to whatever color they are. So, like for example, your free tier was Chelsea Green, and she buffs up the green. Wait, is that what? Yeah, I just realized that. Zombie Gunther, buffs up blue, and then you get more rare as you get to Zombie CM Punk and Zombie LA Knight, which are black and yellow. But then they also do 60% to multiply gem damage. And here's the thing: we did a video more than a year ago. Whenever Seth Leonardo was released, Seth Leonardo is a coach that does +3 strength to multiply gems, and we proved definitively with some math that somebody else on the channel did for me that the 60% +30, which is what they were at the time, hit harder than using Seth Leonardo as a coach to buff the numbers on the buff the number of multiply gems that go up. So those 2024 zombies are huge. I would guess with October coming in a couple months that everyone will have a chance to get some of them again. And I would say even if you don't want them as a fighter, you definitely want all of those zombies as coaches.
Yeah, they're really, really important. We can't overemphasize that enough, guys. Another one that just happens to do the same ability would be our the revamped Strowman, right? The Bludgeon Brothers Strowman
Strowman?
does, right?
Braun
That's his name, isn't
Strowman?
it? No,
No.
no, no,
Harper.
Eric.
Rowan.
No,
Rowan.
Rowan.
Yeah.
Rowan.
Sorry, Rowan. Yeah,
Rowan.
R.I.P.
Rowan.
Harper. I didn't mean that one, but yes, Rowan. That's right.
Bro, you know what? I get my old Wyatt family confused. And yeah, I need to look up Rowan real quick so that I give accurate information. But he is a powerhouse that at 35K, he does multiply gems do 75% more damage. Blue moves start with 2 more MP. Blue moves that destroy gems will destroy 4 more gems,
Yep.
and he was completely free. Scopely gave that one away to the community, and that's about as strong as you could ever wish for on a character's entourage ability. So if you think, oh, he's free, he sucks, you're wrong.
Right.
You're wrong. If you
Right.
think I don't want to use him in feud, he sucks, you're wrong.
Yep.
You're wrong. He's great.
He's
So
great.
that's yeah, and that's where so many people their roster is underperforming because maybe they don't like a gimmick, or maybe they don't like a superstar, or maybe they don't like an era, right? Oh, I don't like Hall of Fame. It's weird. I don't use it, right? And you're
Right.
like, so if you hear kind of what we're saying and read between the lines, is like, to really improve your roster, you have to overcome your prejudice of which superstars you actually like on TV,
Mm.
right? Like that's or we have a friend, I won't name any names, Lee. We have a friend that's like,
Doesn't like CM
well,
Punk.
this person did some really scrupulous things in his personal life,
Yeah.
so I won't and I was like, yeah, but that's an actor playing a part, right? Like the character, the Bludgeon Brother, like that's a character on a show,
Right.
right? Regardless of what the real person that's playing that character does. So, um, yeah, so you have to swallow your pride a little bit with making your roster better, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm kind of getting in dad mode, like lecture, but
No, you're good, but I mean, you're absolutely right. There are characters that I don't prefer, that are even some of my best fighters in the game. Like,
right.
let's just say now I have nothing against Mabel, Viscera, any of
How dare you?
Nelson, but
Big Daddy V.
Big Daddy V is never going to, in terms of wrestlers, is never going to make my top 100 list of my favorite wrestlers to go back and watch. But
Right.
Viscera, the character in this game, is freaking impressive. Or you mentioned the Hall of Fames. We didn't even get to mention yet the Hall of Fame characters from 2025 also all
Incredible.
have 2 MP plus 40% to whatever specific gym color. And then, of course, you talk about free tier Rowan. Rusty, tell us about who is now free tier because they've given him away a couple times. Free tier Austin. Striker.
Yeah. Oh, I've got him right here actually. Steve Austin 316, right? Is that who
No,
we're
no, I
talking
was talking
about?
about, no, the 40% coach. The
Oh,
other
Stunning
striker Austin.
Steve.
Yeah, striker, or Stunning Steve.
Okay. So we'll let's turn the corner there and talk about our gym percentages.
Yeah,
Gym so gym damage percentages are, once you get past the 18K threshold, and once you start having 6 gold superstars, 18K is not going to be nearly enough damage for you. So now you're going to need to get into percentages. And the minimum percentage you want to invest in is 40%. Okay. You don't want to, like, some are going to give you 10%, 20, 30. That's fine, but that's essentially obsolete and dated. The way Scopely is releasing superstars now, like 30, 35% is the minimum mark of what you're looking for gym damage, and it
right,
gets higher. Like Lee mentioned, someone that's giving like 70% earlier. Okay, so someone that can do all colors at 40% or higher is very unique and very, very powerful. I find myself using Stunning Steve Austin He has a silly ability, take 60% less damage from purple moves, which you'll probably never need that. Maybe.
Maybe move damage meta comes
But
back.
yeah, what if it does, right? There's a triple purple killer that you like,
Right.
ha,
Dang
I'm
it.
gonna stun Steve. Um, but he's any color gems do 40% more damage, right? So that's higher damage than most of the A tier coaching ability damage. Like previously, Striker Bret Hart was someone who was very, very valuable
Yeah.
because Bret Hart gave you, I'm pulling him up here so I get my numbers right. Yellow gems do 35%, green gems do 35%, and multis do 35%. So if you don't have, uh, yeah, if you don't have something better, he's fantastic. But
Agreed.
now Stunning Steve is going to give you even more gem damage to green and yellow and every other color. And if you're not running a multiply build, you don't need Brett's multi stuff. And if you have your zombie cycle, you're going to pull even more damage from them or from Rowan. Therefore, not only that, Lee, there's a lot of superstars now that are not turning the board a single color,
Right.
and yet they're breaking the board as it is. And so there'll be five colors on the board, and you're going, so which color am I trying to emphasize or focus? Yeah, so like the new Showboat Gunther is a great example of someone who
How dare you?
make 20 random gems into protect gems, and then no, what does he do?
I don't know. I can't ever
I
get him.
know.
I'm 75 away from him, and the game refuses to give them to me.
Oh, so Gunther makes 4x7 area into multi gem strength of 10. Then he makes a random 7x1 area into column break gems. So he's essentially gonna turn the board into multiplies and blow it up, but he's not producing a single color. So there's no way to emphasize damage. So you have to make everything stronger. So a 40% to all coach like Steve Austin is irreplaceable at this point. Now, if Scopely releases 50% to all colors,
Right.
suddenly Steve Austin is outdated, right?
Right.
Um, but Lee, what about this? And you brought up Austin. He's really important. There's a whole group of people that give you 2 MP and a percentage, like um, Technician Gunther. Since we're talking Gunther,
Right.
Technician Gunther, Big Papa Pump. Those guys give you 2 MP and 40% to a certain color. I thought they were a staple on my roster. Do you have anything to say about that cycle? 2 MP, 40%, super
Yeah,
important.
I mean they're very very important. So typically, one of the things like when we're doing the power ratings, like we'll do here in a bit, we typically say, things along the lines of like, hey, this special gem versus that special gem. So the challenge is most characters will create a lot of special gems nowadays, whether it's leech or botch or whatever. And so if you have one that does like 2 MP of a color and 100% more of say immobile gems, and your character turns the entire board immobile, then you got to figure, okay, how many of those gems are going to hit? Because again, the math on it is you have the gem that sits underneath, like let's say it's green, you have the green gem here, you have the immobile that sits on top of it. If you buff the immobile, you buff this part here, and it works with both. But if you buff green, like you would hit that gem regardless of whether or not you have the immobile. So functionally you're trying to see, okay, if my character creates 20 botch gems, then I blow up the whole board, but I make all the botch gems one color. Is it smarter to buff the color, or is it smarter to buff the botch gem? And that's where you start getting into some real math. That
What's what's the answer? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know right
Then-
off the top of my head. I don't know.
Mm, well,
Showboat Gunther's a
Right.
bully. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So while we mess around in the chat with some math, so Lee pointed out inadvertently two very distinct categories of entourage that you need to focus on. Number one is they give you 2 MP plus 40% or higher to a single gem color. The exception, here's the exception. Let me tell you the exception being the new Hall of Fame cycle
Right.
of superstars. They only give you no, they give you 40 or more. They actually give you
No, they give you.
45, I think.
I think they give you 40.
Is it the same? Is it the same? I'm
Yeah.
gonna look up Molly real quick. So it's so
Because
hard to keep
Molly
all
repl-
this.
I know that's why this is such a hard podcast to
Molly,
do.
yeah,
She's
yeah, Molly
black because she
replaced.
replaced Tori.
Yeah, so Tori used to give you 2 black MP and 40% to black gems,
Right.
which is phenomenal. But now Hall of Fame Molly Holly does 2 black MP, 40% to all color gems. Remember how we told you how important Austin was in all color, right? And 30% more health and increased kickout damage increased by 75%. So for feud, wow, that increased kickout, increased health, and color. So yeah, your Hall of Fame cycle is yeah,
Yeah.
I would say second only to the multi gem
Well,
entourage.
that's why when we started this, I was like, I don't know how to break this down. We're gonna have three distinct categories. So tier one or
Right,
S plus tier is your double 4 MP characters.
right,
Right below that is your basic, your Jerry Lawler, your George the Animal Steel that have been in the game
yeah,
forever, right? But then we really have to figure out, okay, is it the Hall of Fame class of 2025 that goes in next? Is it your multi-gem people? Like, I mean, arguably your Hall of
right,
Fames are going to help everybody versus your multiply gems only help your multi people. But again, the multiply people, that gem type hits so hard. It's really, I mean, this is
right.
why we do power ratings
Now,
and not tier lists, because the game
right.
is so complex that a simple answer is not going to do.
And Lee, it's also why so many people are paralyzed when it comes time to make decisions at Talent Up
Yeah,
because they don't want to get it wrong.
right.
They don't want to waste resources. They don't want to um, yeah. Let me just say this. So if you're out there and you're feeling the same way, overwhelmed by all these numbers and all these categories, yeah, Lee brings up two great points. Number one is that the tier lists really don't work with this stuff. So we're trying to present the information in an organized way while not tripping over our own words. But the second is this is and we haven't really said this yet, but there is a time for you to focus and prioritize on what I call duplicitous value,
Yeah.
meaning you can get the entourage value out of a superstar and they can be your best fighter in an area. So that person is going to take priority. Great example would be Hall of Fame Molly Holly. She was free. She was quickly at the front of the line as far as best female Hall of Famers,
Yeah.
best female technicians
Yep.
that were affordable, approachable, free to play. So like Molly jumped out of nowhere with her ability, and you just went, "Holy cow!" So people can cut in line, right? If you have a list, here's the ten people I'm focusing on for Talent Up when it comes around, and then you go, wait a second, this new thing is better than everything on my list, and they'll be my primary fighter for an era, a class, a category, or a format like boss battle, showdown. They just have to go to the front of the line,
Yep.
and you have to be okay with that. You have to be like, oh, but I really, really, really wanted to bring up Legends Becky Lynch because I really love Becky Lynch. You're like, no, bro. No, bro. Molly
Right.
is going to make everything you do better, everything you do better, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Speaking of, shameless plug for later in the show when we power rate, but I'm looking at our female power rating sheet, and on female technicians, Charlotte has a 24, and then it doesn't show anybody again until Molly, who's a 21. Like, we've only power rated 4 female technicians, so I'm excited to
Right.
see where Jackie fits. But yeah, yeah. On to some other categories. Rusty, what do you think comes next? So we've covered MP 100 different
Yeah.
ways. We've covered multiply. That is a big gulf of the
Yeah.
characters. What do we do after that?
Okay, and let's assume, and you did reference it. We didn't really hone in on it, but 2 MP plus 100% or higher to a specialty gym type,
Yeah,
right? So you're getting that 2 MP. Now let's take away the 2 MP. 100% or higher to a specialty gym type,
right.
whether it's a trainer or a coach, that is going to be an evergreen ability that will scale up as damage in the metas continue to scale up. And if they give you more than 100%, they are going to do something explosive on your roster
Yep.
and potentially revitalize a lacking gym type. One great example of this would be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters that came out and made Power Gym suddenly extremely viable. Where
Mm-hmm.
Power Gyms had, the highest Power Gym damage we were getting is like maybe 50, 75%. I think someone did about 75. But
Yeah.
like they
Last
come out
total.
of nowhere and do, what is it, 300% or
Two.
250 with Raphael?
Raphael's 2, and then one, whatever, 150 or whatever with Kofi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in working in harmony, they're just unstoppable, right?
Right.
So 100% or higher on specialty gym types. Now, Lee, tell us though, not all gym types are created equal, are they?
No, but like for example, Ryan Rooster, first time in the chat right here on Twitch with us here. Thank you. Just said, "Hey, I all I'm hoping for this weekend is to get 10 medallions so I can get Lyra shards because I'll recruit her." And I said, "She's incredible." He said, "I just want her for her coaching ability. Like great that she's a good fighter, but her coaching ability because I have the yeet is such an important thing." And absolutely, like when we're talking about these coaches, the new model is 200% coaches to the special gym type and around 100% trainers to your special gym type. But what Rusty's saying is like power gyms, for example. Power gyms were really good. Like multi gyms are evergreen. There's almost nothing they can do to screw up multi gyms because of just the way a multiplier works. It's literally a multiple. But with
Right.
power gems, there were some characters that were really good. But then, the trainers just didn't get quite there. So, like, even some of your better ones, like your Hall of Fame DDP, like, I love him, but I was already saying, like, yeah, he's going to leave the meta soon because, he's just not going to, the power gems just aren't going to scale. Well, then they introduce these guys who do 200% to the power gems, 125% to power gems on trainer, and you start to stack those, and suddenly now you've got some characters that are back in the game with that. And then you add the plates, which is what Ryan's talking about on here. The yeet plate, we're not talking plates, but when you talk about a plate in conjunction with a trainer or coaching ability, the yeet plate plus Lyra makes some characters like literally X-Pac from the good old days of the game, striker Kevin Nash that nobody was going to use ever again except for as a joke or nostalgia hit, are some of the best characters in the game. And it comes down to the combination of the yeet plate with the other. So immobile gyms, there's a few characters that you have a big immobile gym coach or trainer, and you've got last time is now the hourglass plate, whichever the name of that one is leaving my brain right now. And even although it's super rare. Although I'm going to ask you in a second if you saw something with it. But the new weird Eye of Sauron plate that they have for Viscera
Uh,
could even
Old
make
Brown Eye play.
the old brown eye, ew, could make heal gems come back if we start getting some characters that really use that.
Yeah.
But Rusty, did you see the new feud domination chest has the old brown eye in it now?
Ooh,
So if you max
that's really
feud,
good.
you could get the visceral
That's
visage.
And somebody will, and it'll always be that guy in the faction that like has no way to use it. He'll sit on his self collecting dust, right?
Right.
So, okay, Lee, I think I've done something really intelligent here,
Okay.
and it's going to help us. This is going to help us. What I've done is I've pulled up in the game.
Ooh.
I've gone into I've gone into my roster. I've gone into a superstar, and
Okay.
I've gone into my roster modification screen. I've gone in to pull up my like I'm going to select Entourage.
Okay.
When I choose select Entourage, I'm going to get what's called Entourage's list. That's going to give me 12 or 11 category, no, 10 categories. It's going to be 10 categories like gym damage, submission, MP reduce, starting board, right? With the things that we see every time we change. Now,
Okay, hold on. I'm
I
putting it up on
noticed.
our screen. Tell me what you just did so I can show everybody. Go back through the chain where you went.
Yeah. Choose anyone in your roster. Like I've
Okay.
chose Drew McIntyre, Scott Warrior. Now I'm gonna go in my roster. I'm gonna go over to the Entourage tab.
Okay.
And I'm gonna click it, and then I'm going to the two on the left that have whistles.
Yeah.
Those are my trainers.
Yeah.
And the two on the right that have water bottles. Those are my coaches.
Yeah.
And the last one that has a megaphone is my promoter.
Which we're going to talk
So
about later. Those are separate from what we're talking about on the rest of the entourage, though.
what I'm going to do is I'm selecting an entourage member for this person on my roster. So I'm going to click, above the whistle. That's going to be my first trainer that I'm selecting. And I will there's a bold bar in the middle that says Entourage's list.
Yep.
And it starts with all as the pull down on the banner. So I'm going to click it to unfurl it. And now I'm going to see 10 unique categories of entourage abilities. And we're just going to leave this open for a moment because what Lee and I have been emphasizing is that probably the most important thing is move charge.
Yep.
If you can't charge your moves, you can't use your superstar. Move charge is the gasoline that makes the engine run,
Yep.
right? You got to fill the tank so that you can play the game, right? And then we started talking about, I'm
Gym
going to say
damage.
gem modifier. Well, gem modifiers, right? Because that's your multi increase,
True.
if you will. And so your percentage, like Lee can click on there and show you, right? Multi gems generated from moves will increase their strength by 2. Blue moves start with 2 MP. That's my Lex Luger, right?
Right.
And as I scroll down, I can see some are going to do 2x. The really, really valuable ones, probably the most valuable in the game, they're going to make my multis go up by 4, like Sherry
Sherry.
or
Seth
Leonardo.
Leonardo's
Uh,
3, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so those gem modifiers, crazy. Now, then we get to gem damage as the third thing that Lee and I have been emphasizing. And you'll notice, I mean, right out of the gate, some give you 2 MP, and Naomi, for example, 2 purple MP gems do 60% more damage. That's as strong as we could hope for. But others don't have any MP, but they do something fantastic, right? They get us maybe leech gems do 75% more damage, or snowfall gems do 200%. So there's our gem damage, what we've been saying, our specialty gem type doing 100% or more. But you might be just starting in the game and you've kind of like overlooked um, this category of, or like the way to sort these guys. But yeah, so if you click on the little button that has the up down next to, so I have gym damage open, and next to gym damage, there's a down triangle, up triangle. And if I click it, it's going to reverse. I think it's going to show me
Your lowest
my
talent.
talent. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to show me talent. So if I reverse it, I see who my lowest talent is. So now I can go in and see which of these low talent people um, give me 2 MP, or give me multi damage, multi gem percentage, or give me 18k or high or flat damage, or which one of these give me. Now, the only deceptive thing here is the talent level of that entourage person. You're only seeing their power commensurate to their talent level,
Right.
right? So you're not seeing what they can do, you're seeing what they currently do. I wish there was a way to like slide and say like, well, what would they do at max?
Right.
Um, so that I know that feels like just a super elementary. Some of you guys are probably rolling your eyes in the chat, but I know someone out there
Yeah.
just went, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that."
Well, usually the roles are switched on this, but like even for me, I know it's there. I've never once used that. I've always scrolled all the way down because for me, when I go to move charge, and this is my actual account right here, I always do this. I scroll, I scroll, I scroll, I scroll. I'm trying to find Kofi, because I'm not using him as a fighter, so his talent level is super freaking low. Where instead I could
Right?
just flip it upside down and go, oh, look, here's the bottom
Yeah.
end, pull straight to. It's actually still taking me a sec because I've got to get through that. But look, there's Kofi. He's the first one when I get to. So the ones that are green are available to use, and the backgrounds that are orange mean that they're used by another superstar. But literally, normally I have to scroll through all the green and almost the entire orange. And now I just went to Kofi literally almost right away compared to that. So that's. I mean, I don't use that tip, and now I'm gonna have to start. So thank you, Rusty.
And I did this. Did the student just teach the master something here? That's
Shh, don't tell
awesome.
anybody.
But also, so Lee, click unfurl the entourage list again, because
Done.
probably the next thing we need to talk about, and I feel like we hit gym damage pretty adequately.
And move
Um,
charge, yeah.
yeah. So, but I would say now we get into this um, probably gym modifier,
Yeah.
if you will, because now we're seeing percentages of specialty gyms like power gyms increase, or protect gyms increase, certainly multiply gyms increase. We're making our powerful specialty gym do something even more powerful,
Right.
right? And so I don't know if you have thoughts on any of these, but I would say ones that are not necessarily as important is like I'm looking at an old Dolph that says heal gems generated moves will deal 45% more health. Like
Yeah.
that's probably not one that I need modified or to focus on or prioritize. Um,
Right.
yeah, do you know old Gas Mask Dean steals multis? He increases the amount of multis you can steal.
Powerhouse
That's
one?
crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Moves that steal multiply gems will steal 4 more multis.
Interesting.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, now we have reversals in the game, and they
Right.
steal a
All of them.
ton. So
Yeah, I
I
was
don't know
gonna
if
say so
that's
that's kind of outdated and useless at this point. But yeah, I think we've stumbled onto a better way to categorize this. If you're going through saying who do I go for first, the ones that are in the move charge category, then the gem damage, then probably gem modifier, or kind of swap those depending on your needs. That's going to be the way to go. But if there's a move damage meta that comes up or a move damage character, change everything we've said about gem damage and just apply it to move damage because Like Rhea,
Yeah.
for example. I use Rhea's, for the mommy's on top. I use her move damage build primarily, one, because it hits so freaking hard, but two, because the trainers aren't going to overlap. If I were to use her, I know she doesn't do like multis like that, but if I were to use her with like a multi gym build, I'd be fighting for 7 other people that need that trainer ability, whereas with move damage it's very thin right now, so she gets it all to herself. Her and Bossman actually now share coaches and trainers, but just basically move everything we've said about gem damage onto move damage. Just be aware that move damage, one, doesn't scale near as well, and two, we haven't been in a move damage meta for about 3 years now. We'll see. We'll see if one
Right.
comes back, but we keep flirting with the move damage meta, and then it goes away. So
Well, and every once in a while, there's a move damage superstar that Big Boss Man last month is a great example
yeah,
where if he had plus 99 all month,
right.
and people are running tier 6 metals, but they're not able to really negate move damage. Um, and so he was very opportunistic,
Yeah.
right? He was a very opportunistic superstar. So, yeah, I don't know. As I look at this list, Lee, I start thinking that move damage superstars are the next most important. But there's a case to be made that maybe generate gems is more important. Where would you say out of those two categories we should talk next?
Well, I think move damage is we hit what we need to hit on those. I think generate gems. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking again, Uncle Howdy and Mosh Potato, those ones are absolutely key for generate gems, people. But there's a lot of, like, for example, I would put Seth freaking Rollins and Goldberg in kind of a category by themselves. There's a lot of characters that if they do Juggernaut gems, Seth freaking Rollins and Goldberg make them just incredible half the time. Ones who do countdown gems depends on the ability, leech gems, color turn gems. The generate gem kind of goes back to just the argument of why this doesn't work as a flat tier list to just say, oh yeah, then we just do generate gems, because it's really, what are they generating? Somebody who generates trap gems is probably going to be pretty valuable for your roster because a lot of really
Yeah,
good characters do trap gems. Somebody who generates heal gems, not right now at least, and not for the last 5 years at least.
right. You know what's pretty wildly is that at different times, like I can remember a time in the game where Titus O'Neil was one of my most important trainers
Yep.
to make additional black gems.
Yep.
Was like 4 additional black gems was a
Insane.
revolution when it came
Yeah.
out. It was so wild. And now we have things like Royal Rumble plates, right? Where you just
Right.
go like, um, yeah. So
Done.
so these obviously have to be paired with your best superstars that do their best abilities. And
Yeah.
not all generate gem people are equal. And so Lee touched on this earlier, but I want to circle back to it and emphasize it. We have a power rating grade for every person that we've ever power rated's entourage ability. So if there's ever a question in your mind, or if there's ever a comparison that needs to be made, you can ask yourself, like, did this person get a 3, a 4, a 5? Now, Lee and I have kind of figured out if we multiply that by 20, we put it on a 100-point scale, right? So, like, if a person gets a 5 out of 5 entourage ability, that is an A plus entourage ability. That is a 100 on their test. They have excelled and they are the best student in the room, right? Whereas if someone got a 2 on their entourage ability, that would be not good. That'd be a 40 on the take home test, right?
Right?
And you go, ooh, 40 out of 100. Yeah, 40. That is an embarrassing grade. That's a failure. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true, and it does go to show. So I've got the sheet on in front of us, and for example, I forgot this. Do you realize we still don't have a 25 out of 25 female on our power ratings at all? and we've only got
You know what?
two 24 out of 25s.
Is- Isn't that
Crazy.
just like life though? Isn't the
Oh,
man
careful.
always trying to hold women back with
Careful.
their systems and their rules and their regulations? I don't know about you, Lee, but I'm openly a feminist. I'm pro woman.
Yes, I'm there with you, and that does bother me. But it does continue to show with just the power rating system. We've taken, since we introduced this over a year ago, we've taken a lot of flack for Entourage even being one of the factors that we consider, and we've argued it's actually probably the most important out of the power ratings that really prove this system versus a tier list or etc. Because like what we're talking about right now, Titus O'Neil, like if if generating gems, black gems, becomes one of the more important things, you're going to take Titus O'Neil up over whoever the new hot character is, because the new hot character won't work well without Titus O'Neil. Or you go onto our power rating system and you look at the visual sheet for the males here, and we've got, strikers in particular. You go to 23 out of 25. We've got Roman, we've got Gunther, we've got the new shiny Cena, we've got new Austin, we've got new Cena, and all of them are 5 out of 5 in every category except Entourage ability, which we have them as a 3. But the reality is, I think that's more accurate, because as great as new Austin and Hornswoggle and last time Cena is, 3-4 years from now, we're probably not going to be focusing on them as fighters on our roster as much, but we definitely will be rating what their Entourage ability is. And right now, those three guys are all, or those guys are all 3 out of 5s, versus Uncle Howdy. Long after you stop using him as a fighter, he's going to be a 5 out of 5 out of 5 on his Entourage ability. So, thoughts on that?
No, well, no, I agree. I agree. And yeah, again, evergreen abilities, right? Versus short-lived or fun things in the meta that
Yeah.
quickly expire. Um, so if we pull back up that entourage list, I want to throw out some things you probably shouldn't invest in. Some things
Okay.
that were short-lived in the life of the game.
Okay.
One would be starting board. Starting
Yeah.
board. I just so once upon a time, the moves that you performed were not as important as the gems you swiped.
Right.
Once upon a time, your MP charge, there wasn't anything over 2 MP. Once upon a time, moves required like 10 MP to charge, and it was about matching gems. That's what the
Yep.
game was about. Starting board, completely irrelevant now.
Right.
Completely irrelevant. Um,
Yeah.
as well as gym defense. Now, there's a case to be made for a few outstanding gym defense abilities,
Right.
but the reason I say this is
Honky
because
tonk.
our armor 2 medals can do more and better than nearly every gym defense
Right.
entourage ability. Now
Yep.
you can partner them, you can work them in harmony, but very few superstars are meant to be run defensively.
Right.
Very few have all of the. Now, Jacob Fatu, Acrobat, is one that just begs to be run defensively. But very few do. He's also got everything it takes to be explosively offensive.
Offensive. He's
Um,
very offensive on my roster.
so I just would say like unless it's one or two exceptional,
Yeah.
um, you probably don't need that yet.
It basically
Another
comes
would
down to
be
Honky Tonk Man. I mean, that's the only one most people end up
yeah,
using anymore in gym defense.
yeah.
So,
Another category would be destroy gems. Destroy gems are essentially obsolete. First of all, because very few, the best way to destroy a gem is to make so many of them that the gems destroy themselves.
right.
So gem generate is infinitely more valuable than gem destroy. Gem destroy is only going to work with what's already on the board. generate gem is going to put more on the board to destroy more on the board, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
The way I describe that.
Absolutely.
Um, and I can't think of anybody recently that has been designed to destroy gyms, right? As like that's what they do because I don't know that it would scale up. It wouldn't be
Right.
very powerful at this level of the meta. Now and the final thing, I'm going to poo-poo it a little bit, but there are top factions out there that make this one of their go-to strategy, and that's MP
MP
reduce.
reduce. Yeah.
MP reduce is is a luxury item that very wealthy rosters can afford to invest in,
Yep.
but it is not an essential item. It is not a go-to. It's not a tool I reach for. Now, if I had an abundance of resource, sure, that would be fun. That'd be wacky. That would irritate my feud opponent. Lee, what do you think about the I don't know the significance of MP reduce?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a luxury item. I mean, but the top feuding factions, so let's talk to the experts in the game. The top feuding factions do use these as a key strategy to frustrate their opponents. They set themselves up where you are going to fail against them and they are not going to fail against you. So it is like it's a chess, not checkers sort of move to go into. But I'll say this: one of my favorite characters I've ever gotten in this game is Johnny Knoxville. I didn't even remember he had an entourage ability. It's purple moves MP. Your opponent's purple moves are reduced by 10. I'm like, dang. So if I go up against anybody that is going to have purple moves, like if there's ever this is the luxury, this is the like strategy where you would use it. If there's ever a feud where it's like, focused on purple moves as the main thing, then I throw Knoxville on some people, and people are going to get ticked because then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, but purple moves are buffed right now." But again, a lot of times when they buff things, the counter argument to my counter argument is they give them 99 MP. So then 10 MP doesn't do anything. 10 MP reduction doesn't do anything against 99 MP. So yeah, I would say I'm looking at all of my coaches and all of my trainers, and I haven't used a single one of these in an entourage build in probably 5 years, 3 years at least. So there you go.
Yeah, Cena is the one that I inadvertently use because he gives 50% to green gems,
Yeah,
right? So like if I don't need the MP, I'll throw Cena in there, and that's kind of a cool trick to
right.
run. Um, so the last category, Lee, and the last thing we can probably talk about, and then we'll call this an episode, would be, and I'm not really sure where their value lies, but that's submission entourage.
Yep.
I'm not I would say sub entourage play a vital role in tours. I'm not sure they're useful outside of tours. What do you say about sub entourage?
Well, we have one more thing to talk about really quickly after this. But so like when Slim Numbers, I don't know if I can find it in the chat again, but Slim said, if I was ranking these, and he put sub, I don't know if I can find it quickly, but he put sub as one of his top ones in there. But what I would say is it really depends on the meta. It's like move damage. They have flirted with a few characters that are really sub meta, but the submission, they're just not. Most characters are not great. The only character that I run like as a primary submission person on my entire roster, and I have 620 something characters, is Hornswoggle. That's it. Like I don't use a sub on anybody else unless it's use the sub to set up a gem damage move because of the plates or things like that.
Yeah. And
So
there's
it's
something
rough.
so ironic about the length of Hornswoggle's legs being used in a figure four or whatever. So that's
Yeah.
funny. But I don't want to, make any whatever jokes about that. Um, but he's incredible.
Yeah.
Submission superstar. I just don't know if you watch Merrick's, if you watch Two Bob, these guys that feud just like they're all about speed.
Right.
Rarely are they about sub strength in a feud.
Yeah.
Um, Now, using a sub in a boss battle to load the board, awesome strategy.
Yep.
Using a sub to quick click or to neutralize a really difficult opponent in a tour, great strategy. You're going to make your feud partner very, very mad if you're going into battle with a submission superstar that's taking 4 or 5 turns to drain even at 6 gold,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to just slow yourself down. You're not going to be feuding very fast. And feud's kind of gold standard of how we, rate and value a superstar. Is can they feud quickly? And
Yeah.
I love submissions. I love them. But we're no longer the health pools are so high that no one other than Hornswoggle is dealing enough sub damage, and really Hornswoggle's
This
not
comes from
dealing
the
sub
traps.
damage. It's coming from health steal layered with sub damage, right?
Right.
So that's where you have to say, okay, these are going to be good to get through tours or to stay alive, but they're going to be as I
Right.
have resource to work them up. And of course, the ones that do 50 to 100% or more to all colors are going to be infinitely more valuable than the ones that only do 50% to a color, right?
Agreed. Yep. I think submission is kind of the outlier of if there's a great sub character, you absolutely need them. But there's so few characters that submission is the focus. I
Right.
mean, again, there's over 650 characters in this game, and the fact that we can talk about maybe Hornswoggle and Striker Austin as the ones we use for sub, that's I mean, really, like, there's only a few. Yes, there's a few other characters that have somewhat relevant submission builds, but let's be honest, Zombie
Right.
Bailey, for example, you're not going to use her sub build for much longer compared to her move damage build. And unless there's a big move damage buff, her move damage build's going to, fade away slowly
Right.
over time, too. So, yeah, but I think the last thing before we go, because we would be very remiss without mentioning them, they're their own category. It's why we haven't mentioned them on their, in the mix of this,
Ah,
is your promoters. Your
yes.
promoters. And we've done an
Yeah.
entire episode a year or so ago on promoters, and they haven't changed that much. So go back and check that
Right.
one out. But definitely, whatever mode you're trying to go for. So for me, highest priority was to get all of my faction feud promoters to their max ability 21k. Then you have showdown, your stip tours. Like if you're going through Germania, these stip tour trainers or promoters are hugely incredible. Boss battle currency, showdown coins, all of that. You can say I'm missing one. I'm missing one out of all of them, and my goal has been to get every single one of them to their max trainer ability. But the way you get them there, like they are so limited, it literally takes years to get them all up. So those you can't just
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm going to dump all my resources and make that happen, unless you've been every single day claiming the faction tokens for them. Thoughts on
Right.
that,
And
Rusty?
well, I would say even in claiming them, they also require, you recharging with your in-game cash, because they're scarce. The gold tokens are very scarce.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, so check out our episode on promoters because not all promoters are created equal either. And you have such scarce resources. Talk to your faction, join our Discord, get in our coaching room, and talk to some of the game's best, even certainly better than myself, game's best minds, where I borrow and beg and get advice from those guys as well. So the promoters, I will say this: something that has changed in the game since we talked promoters, Lee, is that notoriety promoters are exceedingly more valuable than showdown coin promoters. There was a time where they were equal to, or if you had a preference, you could strategize. At this point, after the showdown revamp, notoriety is extremely more valuable.
I
Do you
agree.
agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
to a point. I mean, I definitely showdown coins really help you max the individual events, and So here's the thing: when they revamped the showdown wall, or when it was going away, those showdown coins were invaluable because you could get all sorts of stuff. To be quite honest, since they revamped the showdown wall, I have not touched it once. I think it's horrible. Like,
Right.
you barely get any showdown coins, period, and the stuff that's on the wall is basically what was there before, but it costs more and you get less. So I actually think the showdown
Yeah.
revamp really killed that, whereas it was something I actually looked forward to. I would go in and check that every day to try and get a few things, and now I don't even bother with it at all. So that's just me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're right. It certainly throttled the viability of the Showdown shop
Right.
itself.
Yeah.
But the rewards that are baked into Showdown have been better, I think. You just don't get the
Yes.
currency to go to the shop. You get
Right.
TP from the
The show
ladder, right?
itself.
And so you're
Yeah.
hitting the milestones. But you know what we really need is star fills. It's like they are not. That's where I used to go for my star frags.
Yep.
And like that,
That's
I've
gone.
got Wildcat Live. I can only fill her. I can only get her to 35K with a full star, and she's sitting on 34 point whatever, and I can't get that extra. Gosh, it's driving me crazy. So
Sorry.
yeah,
Gosh.
yeah.
Well, that's it
Oh
for
well.
this podcast episode. We had said we're going to start doing half-hour podcast episodes. Forget that. We like doing these long
How
form ones.
how long was this one?
An hour and 10.
Oh my gosh. And this was probably our most confusing episode of all time.
Oh, geez.
If not to the listener, to the hosts themselves.
There you
So
go. There you go.
yeah.
Oh, but we really appreciate you guys. And those on Twitch, stick around because we're gonna power rate at least one, maybe some more, depending on how our time frame goes here. And if you didn't know, you need to follow us or whatever the version is on Twitch now. You need to make sure that we show up when we go live on Twitch, and we want to ask you to follow us and like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff on YouTube because we are okay. So can I say something here, Rusty? Can I just
Your show.
Okay.
So whatever you want.
Hey, it's your show too.
Oh
Co-host
no,
and
no,
co-host.
no.
So,
This is Champions Chat with Lee and the other guy.
oh,
That's all. It's how it's always been.
no, that's not true. That's not true. But anyway, I'll yeah, offline top. Anyway, but so we got thrown down the gauntlet by Scopely to say, hey, we want to see you guys get to 7K subs on YouTube, and we're at 3.5K, which is like, oh my gosh, levels of I can't believe we made it to that. And we had some people be like, oh well, I don't want to do that to like, support Scopely because blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, you're sticking it to Scopely. Like, they're saying, can you
Yeah.
do this? You're helping us. Forget your
Right.
feelings about Scopely. Like, help us beat their task that they threw down
Yeah.
for us. So, thoughts on that? And then we'll go.
Yes. Yes. Here's my thoughts. Take your wife's phone and, and subscribe to our channel with her YouTube.
Yes.
Take your grandma's phone, okay, and
Yes.
subscribe. So, like, I don't know. Let's work the system, guys. How many YouTube accounts do you have?
Ooh.
Are you subscribed to us on all of them? And then how
McDuck
many
is.
YouTube accounts do you have access to? Is it your girlfriends, your moms, your sisters? Go to every account you have and every one you have access to and hook us up so that we can rise and status and in notoriety, right?
Oh,
So
my
that's the
goodness.
plan. Operation Grandma. That's the plan. All right.
Operation Grandma is in effect. Help us get to
Yeah.
7K. Oh my gosh, that would be huge. That's beyond our
Yeah.
thinking, but yeah, we want to get there.
And then your
So
grandma might start playing champions, right? You might see her in feud someday.
that's right. Your grandma's going to be calling you up going, I've got Roman Reign. What is a Roman Reign and how do I use him? Yeah, that's the world you're going to
I
step
got a
into.
bad case of Roman Reigns, Billy. Grandma, there's
Oh,
never been a good Roman. or whatever. No, there's a few,
I was gonna
but
say, wait a second,
that's
there's OTC. But anyway, well, that's it for this episode. Like, subscribe, share, all of those things, and we really, honestly, truly appreciate you guys sticking with and watching this. It truly means a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
bye.